Let's bring in Jackie Alemany into this conversation. She's congressional investigations reporter for The Washington Post and an MSNBC contributor. And Jackie, you co-authored a new article for The Post entitled "Congressional Republicans Divided on Attacking Trump Investigations." And you write in part, quote, "The chasm between lawmakers who have continued to vehemently defend the newly announced presidential candidate and those who have started to quietly inch away from the former president widened last week as top GOP leaders laid out the party's investigative priorities. The emerging split raises another sign of Trump's uncertain position in the party after a month in which he was widely blamed for a disappointing midterm and drew criticism for controversial statements."
Jackie, talking about the divide, what is it?
Yeah, well, we had an interview with my colleague Josh Dawsey with Senator Lindsey Graham, one of former President Trump's most outspoken allies, who distanced himself from the former president and essentially said that when he replaces Chuck Grassley as the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee, he is not going to view his role as sort of an arm to defend the former president in terms of attacking the FBI and the Department of Justice. You've also had James Comer, who is going to lead the very powerful Oversight Committee, which actually has subpoena power, and he'll also be the chairman as well, since the House GOP is taking over the majority. And he told CNN in an interview that he also didn't view it his priority to attack and continue to investigate the Department of Justice on their investigation into Trump's mishandling of classified materials. That being said, there are still very loud voices, Jim Jordan, Ron Johnson, along with some new House GOP members who are going to be joining these committees, who, as Brendan, I think, really, pointed out in an insightful way, sort of have bought into these perverted incentives to try to exploit the news cycle to attack targets that don't actually exist. And so, yes, this chasm is starting to split and get a little bit more noticeable. But at the end of the day, you're still going to see attacks writ large against the FBI and the Department of Justice, sort of along the themes of politicization at the Department of Justice, which does ultimately help the former president. But again, you are seeing some prominent former Trump allies at least saying that we're not going to explicitly attack some of the more criminal investigations that the Department of Justice is now looking at with regards to the former president.
You know, Brendan, as a conservative Republican, I grew up, I campaigned in support of the intel community, and we always would bring up the Church Commission that we thought did damage to the intel community for years. It is so interesting. Talk about just the changes, how you have Republicans, the House Republicans, especially the Trump Republicans, attacking institutions, attacking the FBI, the men and women, the FBI, attacking the Department of Justice, attacking the United States military, saying that they're woke, and some senators even saying, "Oh, I wish we were more like the Russians." I mean, it's insanity. But again, if you don't mind picking up on the theme, on how discordant that is when you have formerly a conservative party and some of its leaders just obsessed on attacking the intel community and the United States Armed Forces.
Yeah, it's hard to square the party that we were even 10 years ago that was running on strong national security. Look, there are people, I think, in the House who do find this stuff uncomfortable and don't want to see the House go down this route. My problem is that those people don't tend to stand up for themselves. You know, we've had a little flurry of late of the moderates talking about how they're going to reassert their authority in the House. I have to just kind of shake my head at that, because I've heard them say that they don't like the direction we're going quite a bit, but they never really do anything. The Tuesday group, the governing majority, they call themselves, rarely speak up for themselves, really try to urge the party to go in a different direction. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. The reality is that Republicans don't think that we've had bad elections, and that's the real rub here. Republicans took away the 2016 election, that you can ignore the middle, you can offend whoever you want, as long as you turn out enough base Republicans. And even though Trump lost the White House in 2020, Republicans had a better night than expected. So they interpreted that, again, as it's working for them. At least in the House, it's working for them. So they don't care who you offend. They don't care if the elites in Washington think that we should be protecting our intelligence community. They think that those elites are the people who are attacking their constituents, or at least their constituents think that. So they've actually internalized these elections are going through as wins for them. And that's the ultimate paradox we're facing. Obviously, they weren't good elections, but from where they live, in their district, the type of politics that they play, it's working for them.
So Brendan, this really underlines what we've been saying here is there are really three parties. There's the Democratic Party, there's the House Republican Party, and then there's the Senate Republican Party, right? Because obviously senators, Republican senators, look at what's going on across the way and just roll their eyes and can't believe how much it's hurting their chances to retake the Senate.
Except in reaction to this, you're seeing the House or the Senate look a lot more like the House. You had a bunch of senators stand up and say they want to challenge Mitch McConnell, one of the few people in Congress who is looking out for the bigger picture, who understands that who you nominate in your primaries matters. And for the first time, you actually had a public challenge to his leadership. That's the type of stuff you see in the House. You don't usually see in the Senate. So I don't actually see a lot of people learning lessons. They're looking to cast blame on other people. So maybe the Senate can right our ship here. Obviously, that was a very disappointing outcome. But there are signs that it's drifting the other way as well.
Wow.
Brendan Buck, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. And the Washington Post, Jackie Alemany, thank you as well for your reporting from the Washington Post.
You know, Mika, it's almost like they don't hate losing as much as my mother did.
Well, they like mini winning.
What do you mean mini winning?
Just like in certain areas, and I don't know. I mean, I don't really see how
when your district loses the country.
I know. I don't know.
When your district loses the country.
It seems short-sighted.
All right. Well, lots of.